All right guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are looking at the Trek FX Sport 4. This is a carbon bike with a carbon frame and a carbon fork, and it is marketed toward the fitness slash hybrid category. But the difference with this bike is on Trek's website, they claim that this kind of bike, this bike in particular, can keep up with road bikes in group rides. So today my intent is to put that claim to the test. So this isn't going to be a scientific review. This is just a sort of first impressions kind of video, just feeling how the bike handles and if I think that sort of claim is true. I'm a pretty hardcore road rider, but I did want something that was a little more laid back for those recovery day rides and just for those enjoyable trail rides where an aggressive sport bike may be a bit overkill. But just to quickly run down the components on this bike, again, fully carbon fiber frame, carbon fiber fork, handlebar and stem are going to be aluminum. But the quality of the components is actually pretty decent. We have Shimano Dior group set components all throughout. So the derailleurs, the cassette, chain rings, brakes, all of that is Shimano Dior. Not the highest end, but also not the worst, and I certainly have not had any problem using it. For the wheels, we have the Bontrager Paradigm wheels together as a set. They weigh 1,750 grams, which is actually very lightweight considering these wheels. I think each cost like 180 bucks. They are aluminum, but again, that is a very lightweight for an aluminum road wheel of that cheap of a price. So no complaints there whatsoever. For the tires, we're running the Bontrager GR1 Expert tires. Those are 40 millimeter, basically gravel tires. They are excellent tires. Of course, going to be a little bit slower than your typical road tire, but still a very good robust tire. And then of course we have our disc brakes and our typical just Bontrager city pedals. Nothing special there. If I do end up keeping this bike, there'll be a few upgrades that I make to it. The pedals, the inner tubes, tires, and probably the saddle will be the first and only upgrades that I make. But we're going to test this bike just completely stock from the factory, just like this, and we're going to see how fast we can go. For comparison, we're going to be looking at a Canyon Ultimate CF SL. So this is a fully carbon fiber bike as well, extremely lightweight, weighs 7.02 kilograms, which fully kitted out with water bottle cages, pedals, and Garmin mounts. This one weighs closer to 16.5 pounds, but it's a very lightweight bike and it is considered a race bike. So we're going to take this bike up against the Trek FX Sport 4. This Canyon retails for $2,900 and the Trek retails for $1,700. So not quite apples to apples, but if you do show up to a group ride, a lot of times, especially in the area that I live, people will be riding road bikes of this caliber. So the idea is to see just how well the Trek FX Sport will do up against a rival like the Canyon Ultimate CF SL. So without further ado, let's hop on the bikes, go for the quick ride. I'm gonna do the exact same route, and I'm going to put in a max effort in both cases. So I'm going to basically give it my all, give it full gas on both bikes, and I'm going to see just how they perform. So let's try it out, and then at the end of the video we're going to of course check out how much the Trek FX Sport 4 weighs, because as weight weenies, that's the most important thing, right? So let's check it out. All right guys, so just got back from my first ride with the Trek FX Sport 4. So this is the course that I did. It's about 16.5 miles, and within that 16.5 miles, there's about 680 feet of elevation gain. So it is actually a pretty hilly course. In fact, the area that I rode this course in is called Barrington Hills. So it's pretty hilly. So this bike definitely was put through its paces. Now you can see I got an average speed of 15.8 miles per hour. That is decent. I'm a lot faster on my road bikes, but for such a hilly course and for using gravel tires and an overall heavier bike, I'd say that's a pretty decent average speed. Of course, the main thing then is how did it compare to the Canyon bike? So I waited about 2 weeks actually to do the same ride on the Canyon, and that was just to make sure I was completely refreshed, and I was looking for a day that was pretty much same in temperature and humidity and all that kind of stuff. So on the day I rode this ride, it was 73 degrees. So now let's go look at the Canyon. So for the Canyon, same exact course, and for this one, I got 20 miles per hour average speed. So that's more what I would expect. 72 degrees, so pretty much the same temperature. The distance was a little bit less according to Strava. Elevation was a little bit more according to Strava, but I think that's just within the margin of error. It was the exact same course, so I wouldn't give too much credence to that. Ignore the average wattage. I didn't have a power meter on either of these bikes, so I don't know where Strava's getting that from. The heartbeat, I did have a heartbeat monitor, so I mean, as you can see, this is pretty much a max effort. My max heart rate is around 188, and so the max that I was able to achieve on this ride was 181. Average is 166. That's pretty high. That's zone 5 for me. So that's a lot. So I don't usually push it this hard. So the question is, can the Trek FX Sport 4 keep up with roadies on road bikes? I think there's two answers. First answer, if you live in a hilly area, like where this course is, Barrington Hills, I would say probably not. I think that you're going to get dropped on the hills with this bike being a heavier bike and the gravel tires. I don't think it's going to keep up with road bikes that are lighter and have slicker, smoother tires. Having said that, I did ride this bike quite a bit on some flat courses, just completely flat. And in those areas, I was able to maintain about 19, 20 miles per hour average speed fairly easily, even with the gravel tires, despite the weight of the bike and all that. So I think if you're riding in flats and you are riding with people who have bikes of a similar caliber, so within like the 2,000 and less price range, maybe a little bit higher than that, maybe even the Canyon Ultimate price range around 3,000, you could probably keep up, especially if you put road tires on this Trek FX Sport 4, which I'm thinking to do just to see how different it is. But if you throw some Continental GP 5000s on there, maybe in the 28 or 30 or even 32 millimeter width, I have a feeling it would transform this bike. And you could also put super lightweight latex inner tubes in the bike as well. And I think that would significantly reduce the rolling resistance, which would mean you go faster. So I do think this bike can keep up with people on road bikes on flat courses. That's the second answer. But if you're in a hilly area, I don't think that claim holds up, personally. That's just my personal opinion. But let me know what you guys think down below. And of course, follow me on Strava, Omar Nabulsi. Now let's look into what the bike weighs. All right, guys, and as promised, what does this bike weigh? We have it on the scale, and it weighs 23.74 pounds, which, again, that is completely stock with no modifications made other than a couple items actually added. 2 water bottle cages, which weigh 33 grams each, the Garmin mount, which I think weighs around 45-ish, and then another one, which also weighs around 45. But you guys, that is a really good weight for a gravel bike at that price. I mean, $16.99 for a carbon fiber gravel bike that weighs 23.72, oh, now it's 72 pounds. That's pretty good. And there are ways you could easily drop probably a solid pound off of this bike pretty quick, pretty cheap. Firstly, you could take the tires off, put some lighter tires on there. The inner tubes as well, those could come out and you could put some pretty lightweight inner tubes in there. And then that saddle, I haven't weighed it, but it's a pretty beefy saddle. So you could probably take that off, and you know, all those changes together, you could probably save, I mean, close to a pound. And for, you know, that price point, I'd say it's a great bike. If you want a gravel bike that can go pretty fast, all things considered, that's also really comfortable to ride. Maybe you want something to kind of supplement your aero bike or whatever on the off days, I think it's a great purchase. If you do want to see this bike on gravel and see how fast I can take it on a gravel course, leave a comment down below, let me know. We'll do another video on that. Otherwise, that wraps up the review. Thanks for watching.